Hello everybody, and welcome to another InfiNet Wireless webinar. My name is Radu Horoiu, Professional Services Engineer at InfiNet Wireless, and today we are going to talk about InfiPLANNER, which is our online radio planning tool. More specifically, I will show you some useful features of InfiPLANNER that maybe some of you were not aware of, and I will also tell you about the new features that we are planning to release in the near future. If you are new to InfiPLANNER, you will find in the chat section some links towards the application itself and towards an online course on our IW Academy that teaches you the basics on how to use InfiPLANNER. As always, we'll have a Q&A session in the end, but if you have any questions during the webinar, please write them down in the chat section. My colleague Dimitri is also online and he will answer some of your questions as well. I will begin with a few words about InfiPLANNER. As I mentioned earlier, InfiPLANNER is the radio network planning tool of InfiNet Wireless, which enables you to design point-to-point and point-to-multipoint links and carry out quick link estimations for throughput versus availability or distance. The most important characteristic of InfiPLANNER is that it is very user-friendly. So it has been designed in such a way that it can be used by anyone who has at least a bit of basic knowledge about the wireless networks technology. It also provides the environment to design more complex networks, both point-to-point and point-to-multipoint, and you can also use it to optimize and improve the performance of your existing networks. But InfiPLANNER is a useful pre-sales and marketing tool that enables you to make those quick link estimations in order to respond to the customer's requests for information as quickly as possible. InfiPLANNER also allows you to compare the performance of different wireless devices side by side. For example, if you are not sure whether to use InfiLink 2x2 Lite or Pro or the XG, or you want to compare the performance of different antennas with different gains, InfiPLANNER allows you to compare these links side by side, as I will show you a bit later. And you will be able to compare the performance of different devices or different antennas in the same situation that you have in the field. Right, next let's look at some statistics. Now the total number of InfiPLANNER accounts has grown to more than 5,000. The total point-to-point links created with InfiPLANNER is more than 114,000. And the total point-to-multipoint links is more than 43,000. So again, we are very glad to see such high numbers that depict a great interest of our customers in InfiPLANNER. This means that you really like creating, designing networks using InfiPLANNER, and we will continue to improve it in the future based on your feedback. Now we will move on to the demonstration part, so I will bring the InfiPLANNER web interface. Then I will log in using my IW passport. Yeah, so now I am logged in to my InfiPLANNER account, and I have prepared here a test project with 2 point-to-point links. I'm in the point-to-point module right now. I will first show you the link comparison tool. This is the first feature that I want to show you here. So when you have some links in your project, like in this case, they are displayed, they are listed in the top left corner of the web page. And when you hover the cursor over those links, you will see that some white checkboxes will appear. And if you click those checkboxes for each link, you will add those links to the comparison window. Now, here in the comparison window, you can see, first of all, the path profile for both these links. Then the overlapping of the Fresnel zone is also shown. Actually, for the second link, I will change the heights of the antennas. So I can make one of the Fresnel zones for the second link. I will obstruct it, so you can see that the overlapping is now 100% and it is shown here. Then you have radio information like frequency, center frequency, carrier if it is single or dual, and channel width as well. And further down we have the performance estimations for each site, first for the first site and then for the second site. And here we have the estimations for throughput, availability, outage, and so on, and the parameters like receive signal level, fade margin, antenna height. From here you can access the detailed report as well, where you can see the predicted performance at every modulation. And you can view the results in availability or throughput mode. By default, you will see the throughput mode estimation. That means that the results are shown for the maximum modulation, but if you click the availability button, then the modulation will be switched to the lowest possible value, and the results will be shown in maximum availability mode. So you will get maximum availability but the lowest throughput. Right. You can also change the modulation yourself manually. So for example, if you want to display the results for the second or third modulation, you can do that. You can select the modulation manually, and then both the availability and throughput buttons will be grayed out, so you are not in any one of those modes when you select a modulation somewhere in between the minimum and maximum. Right, so now I'll put them back to throughput mode. And further down you can also select the device model. You can see that for one of the links I have InfiLink XG with 23 dBi antenna at both sides, and for the other one I have the Quanta 5, which is the most recent product that we have released, and we have recently added it to InfiPLANNER as well. So I know many of you were probably interested in this topic, so yeah, good news. Now we have Quanta 5 in InfiPLANNER as well. And as I mentioned earlier, you can change the height of the antenna from here. So now for the second link that has 100% overlap, I will change the height to 20 meters at both sides like it was in the beginning, and now you can see that the overlap is 0%. From here on, let's say that you want to compare, for example, for the first link, site A, site B, you want to compare the performance of the XG1000 with 23 dBi integrated antennas with the model with 28 dBi, let's say. In this case, you have this button here, add link to compare, and this creates basically a copy of the main link. So you will have a copy of site A, site B here, and for this copy you can change parameters like center frequency, for example, and then channel width. If you want to change it, you can change it from here. I will leave it as dual because I want to use XG1000 as well for this link. And then you can change the device as I mentioned earlier, and I will choose InfiLink XG1000 with 28 dBi integrated antenna. Now I have changed the devices, and you can see that the throughput is a little bit better with the 28 dBi antenna XGs than with the 23 dBi. So let's suppose that in this case I want to use the second set of devices that I have tested here. So now if I go to the copy of the link and I click make primary, then the settings that I have made will be applied to the main link. So it's like an apply button of those changes that I have made there. So now the center frequency is 5.7 gigahertz, and the devices are XG1000s with 28 dBi integrated antennas. And I can also create copies for the other link as well. You can make as many copies as you need. yeah, you can click multiple times on add link to compare, and you will create more copies if that is what you need. Right, so this is all for the link comparison tool. And now the next feature I want to show you is the coordinates lock feature. So I will create a new link, site E, site F, and if you click and hold on one of the sites, the endpoints, then you can move it anywhere across the map and the other side as well. This can be useful in some situations, but in others you may not want to move those sites so easily, because you can move them by mistake, and it's not a good thing, especially when you have a lot of links in your project. And to avoid this, you can go to the site settings panel, and here near the coordinates of each site you have this padlock button, and if you click this button, then the site will be locked into position. I will lock it in the other side as well, and now you see that I cannot move the site around anymore. If I add another link, this one I can move it, but the one that is locked, I cannot move the sites anymore. Now I will go to the point-to-multipoint module, and here I will show you how the coordinates lock works, because it's a bit different. I will add another subscriber to this project that I have prepared earlier, and you see that if I try to move the site around, I cannot do it. So in the point-to-multipoint module, the sites are locked into position by default, and only if you want to move them, you must click on them, then choose the dedicated icon for moving, and then move the site across the map. And there is another possibility as well. If you go to the settings of this site, near the coordinates field, you'll find this location icon here, and if you click it, then if you go on the map and click somewhere else, the site will be automatically moved in another position, like this. Right, now the next feature that I want to tell you about is the import and export from InfiPLANNER. So first of all, the export is very easy. You can easily export your sites to a KMZ file. So if you open this project settings panel in the upper part of the web interface, then you will find export sites to KMZ, and if you click it, the file will be automatically downloaded in your default download location. And if you click on it, you'll be able to view it in Google Earth, and you will see there all your sites and sectors represented using pinpoints, lines, and polygons. And just a second to bring Google Earth here. Yes, as you can see, all the sites and sectors and devices that you have in your project are shown here in Google Earth. Now, if you click on any of these elements here, for example, on this sector, you will get some additional information like device model, antenna, antenna height, for example. So this is useful as well. Now I will close Google Earth. And we are back. And about the import from KMZ files. Now, as I mentioned before in the previous webinars and screencasts, the import of KMZ files is only possible from files that have been previously exported from InfiPLANNER itself. So you cannot import generic KMZ files, you will get an error. Probably in the future we will improve this functionality, but at this moment the import from KMZ is only possible with files previously exported from InfiPLANNER. So for example, if I try to upload this file that has not been exported from InfiPLANNER, and it is another file from Google Earth or from another application that exports KMZs, and if I try to import it, I will get this error here, so it will not work. but if I try to import the file that I exported earlier, it will work because it's an InfiPLANNER file. It's been exported from InfiPLANNER. Now I will delete this one and go back to my main project. And there is another possibility to import files, thankfully. You are able to import your sites using a CSV file. You have this button, import sites from CSV here, and near it you have a question mark icon, and if you click on it, you will get instructions on how to prepare your CSV file. And you can also download a sample CSV to make things even easier. And if you open this CSV sample, you can see that according to the instructions, in the first column you have the device type, base station or CPE. Then you have the coordinates, latitude and longitude, the product family, device part number, and in the last column you have the device name. Right, so now I will import a CSV file that I have prepared earlier. And you can see that all the sites in that CSV file are imported in the project with the names that you have defined. But the sectors and links between the base stations and CPEs are not imported. So you cannot do links or sectors from the CSV file. Only the sites themselves can be imported. But of course this is very, very useful in case of very large networks where you have a lot of sites to import. The CSV import feature will help you very much in this case. Now I will delete this imported project and go back to the main test project that I have here. And I will move on to the next feature that I want to show you, and that is the different colors for the sectors. So you can see here that I already assigned different colors to my sectors that I have in this project. And if you go to the settings, if you click on the sectors and go to the settings, you will see that you have a range of 10 different colors that you can use in order to distinguish better between your different sectors in a network, because sometimes you might have overlaps and it might be hard to see which base station sectors cover a certain area. Now with the different colors it is much easier. If you don't want to display the colored areas for the sectors, you can disable them as well for each sector. You have this checkbox here, this switch, this on-off switch. And if you want to remove all the sector areas from your project, you can do that as well. You have this button in the left part of the window, and if you click it, all the sector areas will disappear, as you can see. Right, so now I will move back to the presentation. And I will start showing you the new features that we are planning to release in the near future. First of all, the possibility to add obstacles to the map. This feature will be brought this year during 2019. And basically what it will do, it will allow you to add manually some obstacles to the map. So as you probably know, InfiPLANNER does not take into account obstacles like buildings, trees, and so on. It only has terrain elevation information from Google Maps. And in some cases, you might have a tall building between your sites, and you want to know exactly how does that obstacle influence the performance of your link. And this feature will allow you to do just that. So add manually an object on the map, and then InfiPLANNER will take into account the influence of that object on the performance of your link. Then you'll also be able to add the level of interference to your project. So if you go to the field and measure the level of interference, then you can take that information and input it into InfiPLANNER, and that will influence parameters like signal to noise ratio, for example, and the maximum modulation that you can achieve, and so on. So this will be very useful as well, and it will be released this year also. Right, next we will have separate databases for our devices. So right now all our devices, old and new, are in the same list in InfiPLANNER, and this can be a bit tricky sometimes because it can be hard to find exactly what device you are looking for. But when we will separate the two databases for old and new devices, then you will be able to find what you are looking for more quickly. And this will be released in 2019 as well. And also this year we will give you the possibility to export a PDF report for the whole project. So right now in the point-to-point module you can only make a report for one link, and in the point-to-multipoint module you can create a report for a link, for a sector, or for a base station, but not for multiple base stations. So in the future, when we release this feature, you will be able to create a report for all the links in your project, both for point-to-point projects and for point-to-multipoint projects. Right. Then a feature that is very eagerly awaited by many of you is the merging of the two modules, the point-to-point and the point-to-multipoint modules. This will be done during next year, and then you will be able to use both point-to-point and point-to-multipoint links in the same project. And the old projects will be migrated to the new platform without any issues. Next, another feature that will be released next year, the CSV import feature will be brought to the point-to-point module as well, because at the moment it is available only for point-to-multipoint projects. And finally, another useful feature will be the possibility to connect multiple CPEs to a base station at the same time. Right now, you must go to each CPE and connect it to the base station, so you have to do them one by one. In the future, you will be able to select multiple CPEs and automatically connect them to a sector. Right, so besides these features that I have showed you before, and those will be implemented for sure. Now we have a few more features that we are considering to implement in the future, but we are not 100% sure yet. But we will share them with you nonetheless. So first, the hybrid FDD function, which is available physically on the XG1000 and the Quanta 5. The hybrid FDD basically means that you use different frequencies for uplink and downlink, but it is not proper FDD transmission. It's still TDD, so the uplink and downlink do not take place simultaneously, but you use different frequencies. This feature can be useful in situations when at one side of the link you have only one frequency channel that is clear, and on the other side you have another frequency channel, and the one from the first side is heavily interfered. So in this case you want to use different frequencies for uplink and downlink. And the next feature we are considering is the sector overlap in point-to-multipoint. And in the next slide you will see exactly what I mean. So we will give you some indication of the main lobe of the antenna for each sector, and in the areas where the sectors will overlap you will get different color. So for example, in this case, in the green areas you have no overlap, and in the areas highlighted with yellow, orange and red you have different degrees of overlap. So you will get a good idea of the areas where you will have much interference between your sectors. And the final feature that we are considering to implement in the future is the possibility to compare the performance of different firmwares, polling versus TDMA. So as you probably know, for the R5000 family of products, we offer the possibility to use two different types of firmware. Polling is the default. Firmware is our proprietary marker access technology that involves the fact that the master unit polls the CPEs and allows them to transmit their data in turns, as opposed to TDMA, where the CPEs will transmit their data according to fixed time intervals. Right, so this brings us to the end of the presentation. Now, if you have any questions, please write them down in the chat section and I will answer them one by one. Thank you. Right, so first question about the possibility to have the radius of the Fresnel antenna displayed. Yes, we can do this. Mathematically, it can be done, and we will consider introducing this feature into InfiPLANNER in the future. Next question, what about the height between the 2 points, like building, trees? Can we add this information, this height? Yes, as I mentioned during the webinar, we will give you the possibility to add different objects on the map manually, and this will help you achieve a more accurate design for your links. Right, next question regarding the location. Is it possible to use Google Maps API in order to input an address instead of coordinates? So from what I see, this feature is available for point-to-point links. I'm not sure about point-to-multipoint, but if it's not available right now, it certainly will be in the near future. Right, next question about how the obstacle will be configured in InfiPLANNER. As my colleagues also responded in the chat, you will be able to add the height of the obstacle and the distance between the obstacle and your antenna. Next question, is there a way to import data from Google Maps into InfiPLANNER? So the best way to import sites is with the CSV file that I showed you during the webinar. And if you have a KMZ file from Google Earth, for example, I think you can find ways, if you search on the internet, you can find some ways of converting KMZ to CSV quite easily. So if you are able to convert it to CSV, then you will be able to import your data into InfiPLANNER. Right, so I see that there are no more questions. So thank you all once again for joining, and I'll see you next time.